3 things in numerology that if you know these, they can honestly change your life. And I know this because I was broke and didn't even have a home and was really struggling. And I basically went from that to a best-selling author with Penguin Random House with a, 6-figure business in a year just by following these. So if I can do it, anyone can. And I've seen people do it. Like I'm not, special in that way. And it's knowing your life path number, which is based on your birthday, your life destiny number, which is based on your name and your.
So what advice would you have for someone that's going through grief?
Oh my God. When you're in that.
That's okay. I know it's tough. You went through a lot this year. And if you don't have any advice right now, we can do round 4. We could talk about the advice because you're going into your next year, So if you're still in it, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard when you're in that space to feel like it will ever be okay again. But honestly, it was leaning on my friends and just doing one nice thing for myself every day was really a game changer. Just every day I would get up and I'd say, okay, you're going to do one good thing for yourself today. Changing your environment helps a lot. Music.
All right, on today's podcast, we had on returning guest for round 3, Kaitlyn Kaerhart. Actually, one of the most popular guests of all time on the podcast. And if you go back and take a look, she was actually episode number 1 of the podcast. So, yeah, we talked about a lot of different things, but here are some key points. We talked about numerology. Right. And we talked a lot about numerology. So check the timestamps or the bookmarks, whatever you want to call them, to check out specific things. Other than that, we got really vulnerable on the podcast in specific parts. We talked about some of the hard things that we've been going through. So if you want some realness, this is definitely that episode. And also we talked about Lord of the Rings. And there's a lot of other stuff too, for sure. But we talked a decent amount about the Lord of the Rings. And I'll tell you right now, spoiler alert, it is spoiled in this episode. So it came out a long time ago. If you haven't seen it by now, what the hell are you doing, partner? But it's okay. But you might not want to listen to that part. So when we start talking about it, just want to let you know, it's going to be spoiled. But it's a great episode. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did recording it. And without further ado, let's get into it.
We've done, this is the 3rd podcast together, and I hadn't really dove into numerology.
Well, I think we did the first time.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, personally.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like the full. And I did it, and I started to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it was because when we discussed, I think it's the year 5 into a 6.
Yeah, that's
right?
what you're in
it's
right
9
now.
into a 1 for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we discussed the cycle, not only the year, but the month, and it was just ridiculously accurate. So much so, because it wasn't as though it's like a general thing where I feel like sometimes with other systems, you can be like, oh, that general theme kind of fits. Mm-hmm. But I tracked it back and it is just...
It's really crazy. And the thing is, like, I've studied so many different systems, like astrology and human design, numerology, the galactic Maya, the 52 card deck, right? And the most accurate, hands down, of anything I've studied are the numerological personal year cycles. When people come to me and they're like, hey, how can I change my life? I'm like, learn this.
Yeah, we got to break that down, though, for people. Because I know for me, I would have like, what the hell are they saying? That's what I would be thinking. So here's my smooth brain analysis, and then you can go deeper.
Okay.
So
I want to hear this. Let's go.
Basically, there's years, and it goes just
1 through 9.
Yeah, it's not double digits. It stops. And then there's basically a theme, and then there's themes for each month, and then those coincide. So, for example, I had like the November for me in a 5 because that was based on my birth information, right?
Yeah.
That ended up being like a contemplative month.
Mm-hmm.
And then the December is like a power month for me.
Yeah.
And I felt the shift
Yeah.
today.
It's crazy when you feel that shift. Like it really is. To be like a little more clearer. So basically the personal year cycles,
Right, you should definitely describe it because I knew I was going to scuff it. I was like, let me try though.
Yeah. So each year we're dealing with a theme based on our birthdays, right? And there are personal year cycles 1 through 9. And each one of those year cycles has a very specific theme that you're dealing with. For you, Nick, you're in a personal year 5, which is change, a lot of unexpected changes, travel, defining your relationship to freedom, which is something we've really been talking about actually. Like you're like, should I go this way? Should I go that way? Sensuality, like getting into your body, those types of things have been coming up for you this whole year. And then along the year cycle themes, we also have month themes. So it's like a mini energy within the overarching bigger energy. So I like to think about it as like a main character and a supporting character, right? So like the main character in your story this year is the 5. And then the months are the supporting characters, the supporting actors, kind of like Ben Affleck is the main character, Matt Damon is the supporting actor, right? And they work together, but you're always going to be dealing with themes within that larger theme, your year cycle. And they go 1 through 9 because in numerology, we always simplify to a single digit because the single digit is the purest form of the energy. So it's 1 through 9 and again and again and again and again, forever. Again, this is all based on your birthday too. So that's why you're in a 5 because you were born July 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
That photographic memory is ridiculous.
I know.
I am a little jelly, honly.
It's actually torture because
I
can't forget anything.
But I want that.
No, you don't.
My brain struggles.
No, you're so lucky because there are times when I'm like, I really want to forget this one thing and I can't. And it's almost like you've never seen it in action though when we're like out and I'm like, hold on. And I'll like go in my hand. Okay, it's this.
I have seen that.
Oh, okay. I do that with Rich sometimes. It really scares him. But yeah, so back to the year cycles. So again, like you're in your year 5, December is your month 8. So, we have to always look at the year cycle to understand like, okay, this is all about freedom and travel and change. But the mini theme is 8, which for you is going to be showing up in money and power. And there have been a lot of shifts for you financially, I feel like. And you've been, making shifts in your business and we really
renamed the podcast.
Exactly. And you've really been coming into your power. I mean, like we're friends. So like, I know what you've been going through on a personal level, but Nick and I, even though we're in totally different year cycles, we have been going through such a metamorphosis this year. And actually my year cycle is a 9, which is all about death and endings and surrender, letting go, completions.
It's wild how much you have had that happen in your life.
I know.
Year.
You know what's crazy too is that even as a numerologist, because I track all my cycles, right? So I knew what I was doing in my last year 9. And for anyone listening, the last, whatever year cycle you're in 2023, the last time you were in that year cycle was in 2014. And that's because they're both universal year 7s, right? So you can go back and be like, okay, I'm in a year 9 right now. What was I doing my last year 9? My last year 9 was a great year. Like there wasn't, there were endings, but they were really positive endings. There wasn't like a lot of emotions like I've had to feel this year. Like I went through a breakup, but wasn't like that big of a deal. I moved cities, but it was like such the right decision. I felt good about it. So I went into this year being like, oh, it's going to be great. I had so much fun in my last year 9. No. It's been the most emotionally trying year of my life. And Nick has really held it down for me being there. But yeah, it's been really intense for sure.
Yeah, you've had a lot of different trials.
Yeah.
Even like with your health too. It's not just like, oh, emotionally. You also went through a lot of health stuff.
Well, the health stuff was actually so emotional,
Right. I'm saying,
yeah.
But I don't know if people realize that part of that is not just emotional turmoil. It's also.
Oh, yeah. It was everything. It was literally like God hit the reset button on me. That's what the year 9 felt like. And honestly, all my close friends who are also in personal year 9s, they also have really, really been in kind of a similar place. Not like I was, because it was almost like I went through all these health issues, which made me feel like my body was broken.
Mm-hmm.
And then right when I was coming out of that, I went through a major heartbreak. So it was like my body felt like it was okay. And then my heart was shattered into a million pieces. And I was like, oh my God, how do I deal with this? Right. And then it was such like a crazy year of just sitting and processing and looking back at, I mean, when you go through big life transitions like that, it's not even about that. You know, it's not even just about like the health issue or the breakup. It's like, whoa, like I'm really looking at myself in a new way and looking at my life in a different way and making decisions in a completely new way, because those are such big life-changing moments, you know? And again, like the 9 is all about letting go. It's about that death before rebirth moment. And it's closing the whole 9-year cycle, right? Because it's 1 through 9. So the past 9 years, everything that I've kind of, my identity is shifting now. And next year is the 1, which is all about new beginnings and the self. And, you know, what's exciting about that is that most things that you start in a 1 tend to take for the 9-year cycle. So, you know, I see a lot of clients that will start relationships or businesses, or they'll move to a new place, and it just takes. So I'm really looking forward to that. Woo!
Looking forward to the next year too, because that's a 1, right?
Yeah. And you're going into a 6, which is the love year. It's actually nicknamed the marriage or divorce year, but you're going in there single. So I think love is definitely on the horizon for you. And also 6 is super, super magnetic for career. Like in my last year, 6, I fell in love, got into a new relationship, and I released my first book. And it did really well.
Is there a second book in the plans? I never asked you that.
Oh yeah, it is.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. I'm just curious. You say first, you're like second.
Oh yeah. No, I'm working on my second right now. Yeah. And then it did really, really well. And I didn't expect that, you know? So I really see that for you as well next year, where you will have the partnership that maybe you're looking for. And again, just a lot of great things for you happening in career, especially because you've been setting yourself up, right? Because it's like, it's not enough that we know we're going in these year cycles. We still have free will. We still have to work with the energy of the universe.
Everything is gravy. I don't have to try. I don't have to do anything. Well, not try, but I don't have to show up, because it's all good. And that's one thing that is huge about these systems, no matter what system you use. Because people will dog on one system and say, well, you can use it for escapism. You use them all. People will use them all.
Well, they're tools.
Right. You know but you can use the tool for, you know, just to comfort yourself and not show up, or you can use a tool to embody. And so I think that's really important.
Oh my God, that is so important. The embodiment aspect, right? Because, you know, for example, you going into that year 6, which is a love year, of course, like you're in the best energy to manifest love. And honestly, I have seen miracles happen in a year 6, truly. People who are like, I haven't even been on a date in 10 years, like that kind of stuff. And they meet and fall in love with someone, they get married. And again, though, you can't just like sit on your couch and be like, oh, he's gonna show up, she's gonna show up. You have to you have to actually work with the energy and be proactive, you know, like put yourself out there, be open, like tell God, the universe, like, here's what I'm looking for, bring it to me, right? It's like, again, you have to work with the energy just as anything. It's not enough to just know it. You have to also embody it.
How do you feel like that ties into free will? You know, like here's an example. Could I have found a relationship in a 5?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like, we have free will, we can do anything at any time. It's just that within the year cycles, it's like the energy is more palpable, it's more potent, right? And again, like I tend to find that the themes play out in a way where, let's say you did get into a relationship in a 5, there probably would have been a lot of changes. There probably would have been something unusual about it, because 5 is about unusual things, unexpected changes, curveballs. But I always tell people too that I believe that these tools are just 1/3 of the picture, right? So like human design, numerology, astrology, it's like 1/3 of the picture. But then we also have free will, and we also have what I believe is like, you know, a universal energy, God source, karma, that sort of thing that also plays out, like, you know, soul contracts or things that are already set up regardless of what charts say, or free will. And again, like, you know, you could you could be, for example, a life path 5, which a life path 5 is all about change and freedom and traveling, similar to the year 5. And you could be like, I'm just going to stay in this one town and work this one 9-to-5 job for the rest of my life and never leave. But you're always going to feel out of alignment. You're always going to feel like pushed, like, something's wrong. And there will be opportunities that come in that try and pull you out of that to align you with your purpose. But ultimately you can say no. You know, it's like there are a lot of people who come to me who say like they felt like they're off their path, right? And then they discover numerology and they're like, oh my God, like this makes so much sense. You know, like even for me, when I was in bands growing up and I would play live shows, I was never the singer. I was always like the guitar player or the piano player in the background. I never ever wanted to be seen. I didn't want to be in the front. I didn't like that. I was really uncomfortable being front and center. But then I was always like thrust into the spotlight somehow. Like people would always come up to me after shows and like compliment me instead of the singer, or when I'd be in the music studio, people would be trying to get me to get on the mic, like, "Oh, Kaerhart, you can sing." And I was like, "No, I don't want to."
You can sing, though.
Thank you.
People don't know that.
Yeah, I know. I haven't been making. I stopped making music this year in my 9.
You are now, though. You're making music, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Getting back into it.
But the thing is that I always tried to hide. But as a life path 1, I meant to be more of a leader archetype. So I was always forced into that. And then when I discovered numerology, and I was like, okay, let me just roll with this. Let me just actually go for being a leader and being more seen and see if things align more. And they did. Yeah.
I feel like so the other podcast we've done, we've hit on numerology, but I don't feel like we went. I have more questions.
Okay, let's go.
I just might as well.
Yeah.
On the topic, because I know that so many people know about. You're well known for partly numerology, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you wrote a fucking book on it, right? So this is the time to
Penguin
ask.
Random House found me to write that book. That was not a plan.
What's that story? I don't want to hear that.
Oh, I never talked about this with you?
I don't. Yes, I know. I kind of remember it, but
Yeah.
I don't think you ever said like.
So I was working as a musician in New York, and I was doing numerology readings. And at the time, I had a totally word of mouth business. I had built that word of mouth business over a while. Like I didn't talk about it on Instagram. I didn't even have a website. Even my email was a generic email.
Mm-hmm.
So people didn't even like know my name that were getting readings from me. You know what I mean? Like it was, yeah, very word of mouth, right? But every time someone would get a reading from me, they'd always recommend people. And by word of mouth, Penguin Random House UK heard about me. And I was put into contact with my book agent by someone who I had given a reading to. And they're like, I think this is the numerologist you're looking for. And they're looking for a millennial numerologist. And that's it. And I said to them, I was like, look, I'll write this book. Because they wanted, all the numerology books are written like from way back then, like 1920s, 1930s, or they're written by much older men. So they wanted a female millennial, like a younger voice. And I told them, I was like, no one's going to read this book. I'll write it for you. But I just want you to know, like, no one knows anything about numerology. Like, this is probably not going to do anything, you know? And I was just excited for a new challenge. And I wanted to get my own apartment in New York. This was like right before lockdowns. And then, yeah, lockdowns happened. I wrote the book. It came out and it did really well. And now it's sold in places like Urban Outfitters. And it's just like wild. Because again, like even a couple of years ago, when you would say numerology, people were like, huh?
The name is cool.
Yeah.
It's a good
You are
name.
Cosmic Code.
I like the name.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's true. We are Cosmic Code. I mean, I look at everything like that. And I know you do too, obviously. You know.
It's in the podcast art now.
Yeah, exactly.
the code.
The simulation.
Right.
Yeah. It's very Matrix of you, but
Yeah.
we're definitely living in a simulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real. Now I'm thinking about all my questions. Where do I want to begin? So, if I'm coming in like a dummy to
Mhm.
numerology,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think is the first thing? I mean, I don't want to be super basic, but
There are 3 things in numerology that if you know these, they can honestly change your life. And I know this because I was broke and didn't even have a home and was really struggling. And I basically went from that to a best-selling author with Penguin Random House with a, 6-figure business in a year just by following these. So if I can do it, anyone can. And I've seen people do it. Like, I'm not, special in that way. And it's knowing your life path number, which is based on your birthday, your life destiny number, which is based on your name, and your personal year cycle. And if you follow the personal year cycles, you will come into a flow with your life. I promise you that. Again, I've just done this for myself, and I've watched so many people do it. People who've signed up for my course, or clients, or friends, or family. Personal year cycles bring you into your flow. The life path and life destiny tell you this is your purpose. This is what you're here to do. Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to wrap my brain because you said it fast. You can probably see my brain churning.
I see her. Yeah, I know. I see your brain going. I'm just a guiding.
Okay, so I'm trying.
Come on, Win.
I'm trying to think of. So, can you describe? So, I got the you said personal year cycles. Can you go through the other two a little slower?
Life path and life destiny.
Okay.
So, your life path number is based on your birthday, and that's the path that you're walking in life, right? It's like your strengths, your challenges. I'm a 1.
That's what you're. Okay.
Yeah. And then your life destiny is the way that your life path is expressing itself, right? So if your life path number is this is who you are, this is your purpose, the life destiny number tells you how to achieve that purpose, right? So
it's all laid out for you.
Yeah, just those 3 numbers, honestly, like those will change your life. You just knowing those. I mean, it really is that simple. And again, like if I was able to have miracles happen for myself, I mean, yeah. It's pretty wild. But the personal year cycles, I have to say, it's been a trip to work with them. It's funny when I've sat in front of people who think that these things are just like ridiculous, right? Like I've sat in front of a lot of finance guys in New York, and it's funny because it's like they're closeted about it. There's like, I get so many guys who will DM me. They're not hitting on me. They're actually, most of the time they're DMing me about some content that I posted that they resonate with so deeply, but they won't comment publicly. Like
that's wild.
Yeah, I had this happen. I posted something about like Libra season or something, Libra's in love. And I had so many men slide into my DMs being like, yo, that's actually how I am in love. And I'm like, why don't you just comment? But they're like straight dudes who don't want, but back to the finance guys. I do think that men tend to take more to numerology because it is practical.
That's what I was thinking.
It's so easy. It's so black and white. It's really, I mean, we live in a mathematical world, right? Like the language of numbers, like there's not a day that goes by you don't see numbers, right? Whether it's, looking at your computer or the time or a license plate in front of you or your bank account, whatever. We're always dealing with numbers, right? So a lot of finance guys in New York would always be like, oh, numerology, whatever, okay. Oh, I'll give you my birthday. And I'm like, okay, fine, just give me your birthday, that's it. And I would only go through the personal year cycles. And I'd be like, okay, so you got married in this year, but you probably got divorced in this year. You changed jobs in this year, you moved in this year. Did someone die in this year? Every time I've done this for someone, their job will just drop to the floor. And they're like, how the hell did you know that? And it's just as simple as going through the personal year cycles. Like I won't know anything about this person, and I've done this on podcasts with people too, other podcasts. And it's just mind blowing when they're like, how did you know? And it's, again, just knowing your personal year cycle. So if I can urge anyone listening to do anything, it is to please calculate out your personal year cycle. All that information's on my Instagram and just track it, right? Because humans, we're all playing out patterns. All of nature is cyclical. Why would we not be? And that's the greatest gift of this tool, is to be able to see like, oh my God, every time I was in this year cycle, I did this. And that's a pattern of mine that I didn't realize I was doing. And when that occurs, you can break that pattern. You can break that cycle. You could, shift into a different energy, right? Like if you always know that you go through breakups in a certain year cycle and you don't want that to happen, then you can like prepare for that, shift into the light. Or let's say you're going into a money year, right? When I went into my last money year, I prepared for that months before. And I was like, I am going to send it. I'm going to make more money than I've made. I'm going to launch all these products. I'm going to launch the course. I'm going to do all these things. And I quadrupled my income that year. And I've worked with so many clients. It doesn't matter what level they're at, like multimillionaires or people who are, not even at the 6-figure mark yet. And I've seen things like that happen often when you prepare for it and when you work in the cycles. Your money year is not for 2 more years. I already knew you were going to ask that because I saw you were like, what is that? But I told you that,
That's
remember?
crazy that you can predict my brain like that.
It's just guides be guiding.
We got to explain what you mean by guides be guiding to people.
Okay, so here's a fun fact about Nick and I. When did we meet?
We met the first podcast.
No, but how many? It's been years at this point. Do the people at home know we're actually friends?
It's I think 2.5.
We're real life friends. Yeah.
Yeah. 2.5 years minimum.
At least.
Yeah. The first one, you're number 1.
Yeah.
On the
Animal Life Path 1, Life Destiny 1. Woo woo. Going to a year 1. So, okay. We're actually in this woman's house. I call her Mama Pacha. You call her Tej.
Who's going to be
on the podcast next. And she is a galactic Mayan expert. And in the galactic Maya, we have guides, right? So it's kind of like astrology, right? So they're like signs, but they're glyphs. I don't know if that makes sense. But essentially what you need to know is in this system, Nick is my guide. He's Wind Tribe, and I am Nick's guide, and I'm a world bridger, and that's actually quite rare. Like you have to be a specific Wind Tribe for that to happen.
How many is there? Do you know?
260 glyphs.
And it's rare to be guides.
Well, come in.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But we're each other's guides. So meeting your guide isn't that crazy. We will attract our oracle, but the fact that we are each other's guides. And so I discovered that because our first conversation, I sent you a numerology report with all your numbers, so you kind of understood where you were at. And then I got your birthday, and so I obviously looked at what your glyph was. And when I saw that we were each other's guides, it's like, oh my God, we're going to be friends. Because when you come around the energy of your guide, it just connects things for you. Even if they're not even saying anything, it's being in the energy. It's like us going to the climbing gym the other day. Like I asked Nick to come to the climbing gym with me because I was going through something. I did not want to go alone. I needed his support. And ironically, like I thought he was there for me, but I actually was there for you too, because you didn't realize that you had this fear of heights that you were overcoming. And again, it was just us guiding each other, right? So whenever Nick and I come into contact with each other, I mean, I can't speak for you. I assume that we always just have those like light bulb moments go off and those aha. I mean, we do come to each other often for advice. And it's not even your expertise. It's just like us being able to be like.
Just resonance.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just know what to say to me at the right time and hopefully vice versa.
Yep.
Yeah. Even when we don't want to hear it.
That can be double-edged sword, right? But
we keep it real with each other, let me tell you.
We do. Very direct. But the gym was crazy.
Yeah.
The climbing gym was crazy.
It was the best time ever.
That was
such a fun day. And we had burgers after.
It was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal day. I just want to even let it be known that when I went the first time, I didn't even go up the full way.
Yeah.
We went twice. The first time, I didn't even...
Well, you were getting used to climbing too.
I had never climbed ever.
Yeah. And you need like finger strength, and you were holding on with your...
I was messing up a bit. But the second time, it was a spiritual experience. I swear, it was just...
Dude, climbing is deeply spiritual.
There's something about being able to push past the limit of when your mind says no.
Yeah.
And I think that the more...
And you were shaking violently on the wall too. And he was still going for it. And I've been there too. And because you're so pumped and your muscles are so tired. And he was like, you're like facing this major fear. So you were like sweating, your heart was beating, but your body was also like, whoa, what are these movements? And you're so up high. And Nick's a big guy, like you're 6'4", right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, and he was like, I'm going. And I was like shouting like, Dagobah system. Because I told him just like, you are Luke Skywalker. This is your training. And then when he came down, I was like, you're a Jedi now. You graduated to Jedi status.
That was crazy because that was so motivating.
Yeah.
You just said that.
Mm-hmm.
And you also said, just take the ring. Just
I
take
know.
the ring, Mordor.
Every time, I'm not even kidding. Well, you know how important Lord of the Rings is to me. But every time I'm doing something really challenging in life or I'm really facing like an internal battle, I think to myself, like, take this ring to Mordor. Like I literally will think about Sam and Frodo and I'm like, they did it. You can do it. You know, I think
I
about
literally get chills right now thinking about that.
No, like Sam's speech. I
Mhm.
literally read that this morning.
Yeah, I think movies are really underrated by the spiritual community. People start to say things like, oh, you shouldn't watch movies. They're programming. But the movies can be such good metaphors.
But there's also good programming too.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
But Lord of the Rings, I mean, like, it's like the most important story of our time. Like there are days, because both my brothers are just as obsessed with Lord of the Rings as I am. And I'll text them every now and then and be like, how lucky are we that we live in the time of Lord of the Rings, that we got to like read those books and see those movies, not the TV show. Let me just make that very clear. I do not support that. But the movies, oh my God.
Did you watch the TV show?
I tried.
I watched it. I watched the whole thing.
Oh my God, I couldn't.
I just had to see. I had to see what it was like.
I didn't like it.
Did
you like it?
Oh my God. I think they like did something with the ratings to boost them because they were really bad and now they like went up. I'm like,
yeah, I don't trust like that.
all right.
No.
But did I like it? I like the fact that we get to see more of the universe. Now, it's always cool, but it's not anywhere near what the originals were.
No, but that story is just so timeless. It's so powerful. I mean, I literally cry every time I watch Lord of the Rings. Weren't we talking about that? And you're like, what parts do you cry at? Was that you?
Mm-mm.
No, someone was asking me that. I was like, this scene and that scene and this scene. And they're like, oh yeah, those are really good.
So when you're thinking about Lord of the Rings and how powerful it is for you, like what do you think the archetypical message? What do you think that message is at the core that really speaks to you?
Oh my God, there are so many themes that are going on in that. I think it's just, there's this underlying message of doing what's right and what's best for the good of all that I find really inspiring. And I also just think it's so beautiful that they're doing something that is impossible and so hard and everything is against them. It's the classic hero's journey. And yet they do it, and they do it with the help and support of each other, you know, the fellowship really. And well, we can go deeper into that, but it's such a beautiful story of persevering and facing adversity and like staring evil down and being like, not today, and good triumphing over evil. And even like the core story of the friendship between Sam and Frodo is just so inspiring. Like Frodo is a broken hobbit in that series. And Sam, you know, Tolkien said that Sam was the real hero of that story, and he is, you know. And it's like, I think we all have those friends in our lives and those people in our lives where we're like, I cannot keep going. Like I'm broken, or I'm dealing with grief, or this happened or that happened. And to be able to lean on someone that you love who just has your back like that, you know. Again, I could talk forever about Lord of the Rings.
Keep going. I got like chills 4 times. During
really?
That.
Yeah. I mean, it was actually my last class at uni was a philosophy of Lord of the Rings class. Yeah, I was the only girl. And when I walked in, I'm not going to lie, everyone laughed at me and was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, what do you mean it's Lord of the Rings? Like, people did not believe I was as into Lord of the Rings as I am. And I did not open that book the entire class. I didn't have to. And I got a 98% on it. And by the end, all the guys that were sitting around me were cheating off me. I was like, please. Like, Lord of the Rings is my jam. But again, we can go as deep as you want to on that topic because it is one of my favorite things to talk about. But also, yeah, I don't know how into Lord of the Rings you even are. I've never asked you. Well, we did try and watch it one time, but
let's get it on record as to why you didn't want to watch it. Go ahead. Sure.
Nick was staying in an Airbnb and the TV was very small and not good resolution.
It was not very small.
And I said,
Lies.
we cannot do this because the films are beautiful. I am not going to watch the Battle of Helm's Deep on this tiny little TV. No. It was dishonoring Lord of the Rings.
It was 35 inches. It wasn't super small. It was mid-size. It was
small for Lord of the Rings. It was too small for Lord of the Rings.
What if I told you that I watched the series again on my phone?
On your phone?
Yeah.
Were you like in an airport?
No, I was doing red light therapy. And I was on the, yeah.
You watched Lord of the Rings on your phone while doing red light therapy?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you didn't do the extended versions. So you sat there.
No, I did.
Extended versions?
No.
4.5 hours staring at your phone, watching each film.
Well, I was moving, I was doing red light one side, doing this, doing there, yeah.
Okay.
The look of your shot.
I need you to also upload the photo you sent me of you the other day when I called you. And I'm like, are you in your car right now? And you're like, no, I'm doing red light. And then Nick sends me this photo. It's so ridiculous. He has little goggles on and he's like sitting back and it's all red. You have to drop it into this video.
Well, it'll be on the screen right now.
Okay, yeah. That
Oh my
was such a
God.
good photo. Wait, remember that photo that Aubrey took where something went wrong with your face? Can we post that one too?
No. That one's dumb.
You look like a
It's-
wax figure.
It's the dumb,
Oh my
the
God.
stupid night vision on the iPhone. That's why that happened. But we'll put it in for the memes. The
that
red light
will be
therapy.
made into a meme 100%.
The fucking red light therapy. I got that like a month ago, and
Yeah.
I've been like, what kind of products do I want to? We haven't had that many products on the podcast, and I was like, I want something that genuinely works.
Yeah. Well, obviously. No, I only want products that don't work.
Right, but
Yeah.
there are things that
No, I
people
get
will go
it,
on
yeah.
podcasts. It's just like this little thing that's like kind of helpful. I want something that's gonna,
Yeah.
change someone's life if I can.
Yeah.
Right, if it exists.
We're changing
And-
people's lives today with the personal year cycles.
Well, yes,
We
that.
just changed lives.
In the red light, I've been wanting red light for a long time.
Wait, is
And-
this your first experience with red light
Ever.
therapy? Ever?
Ever.
Wait, so you never did it before?
No.
Wow.
I've never had one.
See, I got super into red light therapy after my health issues. And I'm so skeptical. I just assume nothing's going to work and nothing does what it says. No. Red
shit
light
works.
it really is such a game changer.
It works.
Especially when you do it first thing in the morning. I had this little like routine where I'd wake up in the morning and I would make tea and then I would have my tea in front of the red light and before bed too. Well, that's when you were doing it.
Hold up, wait a minute. All this talk about red light is a perfect time to introduce a new sponsor of the podcast, that being a guest's company. If you go back, I believe it's episode 37. If it's different, I'll put it in here. But episode 37, we had on Joshua Hanna, and he's got his own company, MetaHuman, and he has red lights. And let me tell you right now, if you can see me, look at how bright these things are, right? Your boy has been using the red light, and if you've been watching the podcast, how important it is to me to have products that sponsor it, that allow the podcast to keep going, that actually work, that actually make a big difference. And I'll tell you right now, the red light has made a tremendous difference. Not only in my life, but you can hear her talking about how much she loves red lights because this shit actually works. So we have partnered here at The Human Game with MetaHuman to bring you these red lights, and here's a special deal for you. What I wanted to give you is 15% off, partner, before Christmas. So if you want to get yourself a Christmas gift that actually gives back to you immensely, this is science. We're going to do a whole episode with Joshua on the benefits of red light, but I have seen tremendous strides in my elbow injuries and also my back injury. I really wrecked my back on a dirt bike, and I've talked about it a couple times on the podcast, and this has been one of the first things that actually helps the cells heal, and it actually got better using the technology of the red light and my elbows too, so I can work out more, I can do more functional stuff, and it has been immensely beneficial. I use this every day, twice a day, even more than that. So highly recommend it. Check it out. 15% off before Christmas. Link for that will be in the description or show notes, depending on how you're here with us on the podcast, but check that below for more. While watching Lord of the Rings.
Wait, that's crazy. I can't believe you're doing that on your phone. Wait, when I called you?
No, that was a while ago. That was probably like a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Why have we not discussed... Wait, you watched all 3?
Because I wanted to wait to tell you here to see your reaction.
Oh my God, dude.
But
which film is your favorite? Which character is your favorite? Oh, remember when you told me, sorry, ADHD here. Remember when you told me you want a Legolas hair, and I really want to advocate for Aragorn hair? Because you already are a brunette. It just makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah.
I wanted to try it.
Okay, favorite character, favorite film. I know it's so hard.
I would have to say, I think the character that... It's interesting. This is a hard question because, like, favorite is in most important, or like favorite as in you like how it was done.
Your personal favorite.
I think it's probably a tie between Aragorn and my man, the dwarf. It's
Gimli?
so good. It's so
What?
good.
Gimli?
He adds so much value.
Oh my God. No one has ever said Gimli was their favorite.
I'm just saying, Gimli brings
Oh my
so
God,
much.
that's why you were talking about Gimli the other day. I was like, why are we having this discussion?
It's good. It's the humor, the comedy, the character's just so well written.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there are more important things to the story, but in terms of the characters that I like,
yeah,
that would probably be it.
Aren't you a caves environment?
Uh-huh.
There you go.
In human design.
And I've seen you with an axe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You like them.
I'm not short, but I feel like I have that.
Well, actually, that actor is the tallest in real life out of the Fellowship.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Do you know?
I know he's over 6 foot. He's a quite tall person. Yeah.
How did they do that?
I forget the term. It's like a weird perspective. Like,
I've seen that before. It's like an optical illusion.
Yeah. It's in the extras. It's on YouTube, actually. Yeah.
Of course, you've seen the extras.
Oh my God! Of course, I watch them on YouTube sometimes.
I haven't seen any of the extras.
What?
But
You would love that.
I know. Now I gotta ask you, who's your favorite character?
It's interesting because I've been in love with Lord of the Rings since I was a little kid. Obviously, the movies came out, and that changed my life. Like, when I was a kid, I had Legolas, like, folders that I brought to school.
Wow.
Yeah, I was, like, that dedicated.
That's another level.
Yeah, like, as a kid, Legolas was my favorite because elves are really dope and magical, and, like, him with a bow and arrow was just sick. Like, I mean, I could reference some parts of the movies, but I won't. But
No, you can reference them.
I mean, right before, when they're traveling to Helm's Deep, and I forget what the name of those creatures are that attack them when Aragorn goes off the cliff. And Legolas.
The orcs? Just orcs?
No, it wasn't orc. Well, yeah, they were on something. I forget the name of the creature they were on. Yeah. Remember when they came?
I don't know what it's called. But yes.
When they had an ambush, and then Legolas is just sitting there, arrows going back. You like archery. And then a horse comes, and he literally grabs the horse and, like, swoops over it. Like, it's just the craziest move. But Legolas, and obviously as a little girl, I thought he was really cute and handsome. And I aspired to grow up and be an elf. But as a woman, Aragorn, he is just like the picture of perfect masculinity. Like, such a man of honor. and strength and just, damn, Aragon, yeah.
Have you ever bow and arrow? Have you ever done any archery?
Surprisingly, no.
I'm going to get a bow. That's
I
something
know.
that I told you I was going to pick up. When I do, we'll take you out.
That'd be so fun.
And try it.
I have handled a sword
You have.
and guns.
Okay.
Not that there are guns and wait, there is actually a video on YouTube where they replace some of the weapons with guns in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I've seen
It's
that.
very childish, but funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a hard question when you say who's your favorite because all the characters are so well done.
There's so, I mean, also it's like we can't forget Sam.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Sam doesn't have that like badass. Well, actually,
It's a different type of depth.
when he fights that giant spider, I
That-
mean,
That should give me nightmares.
right? But the bravery was like back with the light. Oh my God. Oh my God. Just
And
incredible.
Sam battling with that too.
Huh?
And Sam battling with that too.
That's what I'm saying. Sam battled that giant spider.
Oh, okay. My
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
I got to mix it up with Frodo for a second.
Plus, like,
But yeah.
Frodo would have never put the ring. He would have never gotten to Mordor without Sam.
Can I say something controversial about the end?
Okay.
I was a little, when I first time I saw it, I was a little like, damn, Frodo wasn't able to
I know.
fucking complete it.
I know.
I was like,
That's so disappointing.
I wish I would have seen him just fucking send it. Fucking
I mean,
dunk it. He did.
Yeah.
He did, but it like, I think they
Dunk
overdid.
it.
I feel like they overdid the, like, him turning again. You know, I feel like
it was so stressful to watch that.
it was.
Very stressful. I remember being a kid watching that and just like, are you kidding me? 3 movies in and
Right.
he's not going to chuck it in there.
Exactly.
But I think that also, because I've thought a lot about that, it just is the power of the ring, because the ring is so evil and it turns you, right? And he was carrying it for so long
Mhm.
that he grew an attachment to it. You know, spirituality 101, attachments aren't good.
So you think he grew an attachment? You think that's why?
Yeah, I mean, it was like he was turning into Schmeagol. It's like his precious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He fell to the temptation.
exactly. Well, it was he felt a love and a desire for the ring because it was so powerful and it was attaching itself to him, right? Energetically, like an energy vampire. And so
People do that shit with money.
yeah, exactly, right? So I mean, it is the most powerful ring in existence that had been created. So it makes sense that it wouldn't have been so easy for him to just toss it in. I mean, he was getting pretty dark in the end, though. He was very spicy.
I love how they did the Eagles.
I know. Oh my
Swooping in.
God. I know. I always tear up at that part because Sam and Frodo, they just accept that they're dying. And Sam's talking about how he would have married that girl and like, oh, how great that would have been. And they're just like, it's over. It's done. And then when you're watching that as a kid, because I hadn't read the books yet, I was like, oh my God, they're going to die. And then you see Gandalf on the Eagles and you're like, oh.
I know.
It's so powerful.
So to mix them together now, let's do it. Do you know any numerology of any of the people?
The characters, you mean?
Well, you
Or the
can.
actors?
They wouldn't be characters, right? They
Yeah.
don't give them birth
I've looked
dates.
at the actors. I forget what Tolkien is.
What do you know about him?
A lot of the inspiration that he used to write the books came from his own experience with war. Like orcs, for example, represented how he saw groups of people when they get together, like mobs, and how dumb people can be when they're following a certain ideology and they band together in a large group, right? But every single one of the types of creatures, characters that were in the book represented different archetypes to him. But yeah, he had fought in the war and lost a lot of friends. And so he took a lot of that inspiration in there as well. There's actually there's a movie about Tolkien that came out a while ago with Nicholas Hoult. That's pretty informative.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Very
And it's
interesting.
crazy too that he invented the Elvish language Like he actually invented a language.
Do you speak it?
No. When I was a kid, obviously, I spent a lot of time trying to learn that, but no, I do not speak it. It's beautiful though. And he's like, well, I invented this language. I might as well write these books. He did. He's just a genius. It's crazy. Think about how much he had to even imagine up. Like he created languages and different realms and this whole world. It blows my mind.
Did he create it? Did he create it?
Or what?
He discovered it.
You know, I have thought about that when I was a kid. I used to think there's no way that someone could create that. It must exist somewhere and they're just tapping into it. Like, and I thought this with Harry Potter too as a kid. I'm like, Hogwarts has to exist. There's no way J.K. Rowling just imagined all of this. It has to exist somewhere for us to imagine it, right? And so I think a lot about that as like a little 10-year-old trying to be like,
I still think about it.
I know. Well, it's
I
just
still
like,
do. Mm-hmm.
I feel like there has to be a realm that we're tapping because it's like, how? How do you like imagine all these? It's just mind blowing. And how do you keep it all straight too?
I wonder if there's something to do with the multiverse and maybe these people who write these stories like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, they somehow, maybe they incarnated or they somehow are more connected to certain realms.
Oh my God, yeah. Like maybe Tolkien actually, that was his past life in a different realm, different universe or whatever. And so he had the knowledge and I was going to write about it.
Or the Earth has been around for so damn long,
yeah.
It could have been a past life on Earth.
Well, you know,
this realm.
Some people do believe there's a Middle Earth. So there you go, right?
Like a Middle Earth is in an Earth inside.
Uh-huh. Like a Agartha or something, I think it's called.
So Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
Right.
But I've heard it referenced as Middle Earth.
It would be the same concept.
Yeah, but that's what is in Lord of the Rings too. Middle Earth is what it's called. Or Mordor and the Shire.
Right. Yeah. I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking about how plausible that could be all of a sudden.
Hey, if it exists, if Rivendell exists, we're going.
How do we get there?
That's the thing. I don't know. We don't know. But if it's there, we're going. And then I will learn Elvish and live forever as an elf.
I thought about learning Sanskrit.
Oh, yeah, because you've been really into the Bhagavad Gita lately. Yeah.
There's
Gonna get that Om tattoo.
Already got it.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Let's go. But, this is fucking merch too. Fucking shout out. Right here.
This is sponsoring the podcast.
This has been 5 years ago. I thought about doing this. You want to know why?
Wow.
For those that are listening, I have an Om shirt that's like minimal. It looks like a logo, like a small logo on the side. And the reason why it's been 5 years is because I thought to myself, I like the Adidas Nike type shit. When I was, into athletics and that type of stuff, I like the minimal logos. I never wore the big ones. And I was like, but I want something that means something.
Yeah.
Right? Because I just felt like it was kind of dull. Like, I'm promoting this company for what?
Yeah.
And then I thought about how
like promoting more of like an idea.
Exactly.
Versus a brand.
That's why I've said that the clothes have meaning. Yeah, like this has meaning.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Though people who work at Adidas would probably say there is meaning to that logo.
Cringe. Not true meaning. Not like deep meaning. It's the meaning that okay. I don't even know. I can't even comment.
It's capitalistic.
It's some bullshit.
Yeah.
This is like some true meaning.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally, yeah.
But
you're promoting ideas and concepts. You're the second coming of Alan Watts.
I thought about learning Sanskrit, and I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, the Yogananda commentary, and I'm sure on the podcast there will be episodes up by this point with that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I'm reading as I'm going through the commentary is that it's so, and this is something that anyone who, maybe I just didn't even realize this. It is definitely like this with like Dan McClellan, who does the Bible a lot on the talk. He's a scholar with that.
Oh, I haven't listened to that.
Okay, that's wild. It's ridiculous. It's the best.
Because I grew up with the Bible because I was always in religious school. And so like a lot of my upbringing, I was having to memorize a lot of Bible verses. But again, like when you're a kid, those don't really have as much meaning as when you're an adult and you can really take in that meaning. But I've never listened. That'd be interesting for me to listen to something like that now.
Yeah. Just wait until I break down the holy science.
Okay.
This book is literally, it's so mind-blowing because I almost am like, I'm reading it and I'm like, I need to understand this better.
The
before
Bhagavad Gita, right?
No, it's a book called The Holy Science.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It's a different book.
Oh, wait, we talked about that the other day around the fire.
It's by Sri Jaswar. Yes, we were talking about the Yuga cycles.
Yeah,
around the fire.
yeah.
That's something different. But, well, no, it's not. It's the same book. But
yeah,
in that book, it talks about people. I'm like at a loss for words because it's so difficult to describe. It talks about how many things, but he will say Bible verses with like 7 candlesticks or 7 this or 14 this or whatever the numbers, and it's like symbolism and nobody understands it. Most people don't understand it. And then he'll talk about how in the East, in these Kriya Yoga traditions, they've got it all figured out. And it will be so complex as to describing consciousness. And I think people, it's that nobody's doing that. Nobody's talking about that. And that's why I'm passionate about it.
I think the future, though, I think maybe Nikola Tesla or someone said this. I do think the future is science blending with spirituality, because you can't really separate the two.
And that's why I started going down that road much more. Even started making much more about that because I realized that.
Yeah.
I knew that a long time ago. I got away from it because all this like other shit that was like mind candy. And I started to come home and realize how important this shit is. But people don't understand how well these yogis have broken down the science of consciousness. Like I'll have to show you. If we were at my place right now, I would break out the book and show you. And I will. I'll break it down on the podcast.
I'll get the book.
Yeah.
And read it.
And then watch I'll do podcasts on it because it's so ridiculous. It's only 100 pages, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
I'm imagining like a 700-page book, which is fine.
The Bhagavad Gita translation, the commentary is
so
1,000.
long. Yeah, I've actually never read the Bhagavad Gita.
Fucking facepalm. Okay, you got to read it.
Yeah.
With commentary. If you read it without commentary, you'll get it. It'll sound like the Tao.
Maybe I'll listen to it when I drive back to Nashville, whenever that is.
Just listen to the commentary I do on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It'll give you.
That'll be much easier. Yeah.
You know what's crazy is as I'm doing these, I'm filming these. Get this, one verse, which is probably like 4 lines. I think the first verse takes him like 60 pages of 60 pages of commentary on one verse. Okay, and there's a lot of verses. So it's very complex of a break. That's why it's 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
But he's like, it's been said that it's Paramahansa Yogananda's most comprehensive breakdown.
Yeah.
So if like that man is a legend, people don't understand that, how much that guy's.
Well, his
a legend.
autobiography is really famous.
It is. That was
like Steve
the
Jobs'
one.
favorite book. I think that's what everyone knows it for in pop culture.
Right, but people don't go deeper, and that's what I love.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you said I'm the second coming of Alan Watts. I look at a lot of Alan Watts' stuff, but he never really did the Kriya Yoga. He never really talked about the yogic stuff. And I find that like I'm really interested in that. Yeah. I think there's something about Yogananda. There's something about the specific lineage, specifically what they had going on, that story, that really speaks to me more than others. I don't know what it is.
It just resonates with you. Like,
there's something about it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like I love Lord of the Rings. Well, who doesn't love Lord of the Rings? But
there are people.
Like, okay, well, that's what I'm saying though. To me, that's like the greatest story of all time. But some people might think.
I just asked Eisen if you've ever seen it. He said no.
He is in for such a treat. Eisen, if you're listening, please go do yourself a favor. And I mean, my brother and I talk about that sometimes. Like, I wish I could just erase my memory and go watch Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings again.
You know what's hilarious? Is he named his men's group the Fellowship, and he's never seen Lord of the Rings. I'm like, what? You can't do that.
He's
Flag
gonna
on
love
the
it.
play.
He's gonna love it.
I told him, you better watch.
You should
that
watch
shit.
it with him when you go to visit him.
I will.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now I'm trying to think about, can I wrap my mind back around to numerology? Is it possible? Is it even possible?
Anything's possible.
We talked about, okay, you get into it, the 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, here's a question.
Okay.
What are some of the nuanced, more complex parts of numerology that most people haven't looked into that could be helpful for them, or that you find interesting, or you find profound that most people don't know about numerology?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I do feel like numerology just isn't really that mainstream. So I kind of feel like even what I would consider basics are unknown, right? Because numerology, it goes so in depth. It can go forever. And there are, what I typically tend to teach and show people is like elementary math. But there's numerology that's like very elevated, very complex mathematical equations, which like, we don't even go there. But like pretty much anything can be broken down. Like the whole UR cosmic code, that is a real thing, right? Like you can kind of find anything within the numbers. But I would say something that I tend to find that people truly love, that, you know, interestingly enough, I don't love it, but like people love it, is the soul urge number. Basically the soul urge speaks to like your deepest desires, like your heart's deepest desire. And that, I don't mean love. Just like what your soul just like craves. And a lot of the times it's a number where you may not even know it's something that your like soul's yearning for, right? And that will happen sometimes, where people will be like, yeah, maybe that kind of resonates. And then a couple months go by and they're like, oh my God, yeah, actually, right? Like it's so deep within you, like you might not even be aware of it, kind of desire. People just love that. I did not put that in my book because I didn't think it was that important of a number. I did write a chapter on it, and then, you know, I had a limit with the words that I could put because Penguin. But I actually offered that bonus chapter in Numerology 101, which is my signature program. And again, people they're always asking for it. They always bring it up. It really surprises me. And I think it's because for a lot of people, they do have breakthroughs where they're like, oh, wow. Like, 'cause we don't always realize our motivations, right? Like you may think that you're motivated to do something for a specific reason, but actually that's not what's driving you. Right? So I think people have a lot of breakthroughs with that number. I don't even know if that answered the question.
It did.
Oh, okay, cool.
But you're telling me there's what?
It's called a soul urge number.
Wait. We gotta just really ponder this.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying we're in a simulation.
Yeah.
And there's a soul urge number. There's a destiny number.
Yeah.
There's a path number.
Mm-hmm. Personal year cycles. We talked about that.
But just thinking
And
about
those
how
are
much.
just some of them, by the way.
But I'm just thinking about how it's all laid out for you.
Yeah, it is.
It's like right there. There's like the code of the
That's
code
why
of the
you are
simulation, the
cosmic
code of the video game. It's like right there.
Yeah. Well, and that's the cool thing too. It's like the more that you work with numerology, and I've had so many clients reach out to me about this after they did readings with me or took my course, and they're like, yo, I see everything differently. Like the more that you work with numerology, the more you start to speak the language of numbers, which is the universal language. Think about it. Across all countries, we all are on the same number system, even if we speak different languages. It's like music, right? We're all using this same system. It penetrates. So it's really interesting when you can start to understand your own code. And then when you're seeing numbers, when you're out and about, you can understand what that actually means, right? So for example, if I'm out and I'm seeing ones all the time, that's going to mean something way different to me than it will to you because you're not a life path 1, right? So like to me,
So 1111 doesn't mean the same thing to everyone as you see online with your angel numbers and shit?
no, do not get me started on angel numbers. Remember when we talked about that on the last podcast and people came for me?
Let's do it again.
That was messed up.
Let's go again.
That was really messed up. Okay, here's the thing.
I do remember that now.
Yeah, you called me and you're like, Kaerhart, are you okay? People were mean, vicious in the comments section.
I don't remember that, but I do remember how people got salt. Why do you think so many people got salty about like saying angel numbers aren't accurate?
People are so attached to the meaning they're giving the numbers. And hey, that's fine, right? So like if your grandma's birthday was, December 4th and you're always seeing 124 and that's your special meaning for it, then fine. But numerologically, that's the meaning of that is different, right? So it's like, and again, people go online and they'll Google like, what is, 666, 555, 111 mean, all these different numbers. And they'll get some generic, your angels are with you now, which is absolute bullshit. And it pisses me off because these are codes that are being communicated to you. And you can interpret the correct meaning for you through your own knowledge of knowing your own cosmic code. When you know your own numbers.
Well, true numerology is what you're saying. When you know numerology.
When you know your own numbers, then these become activations. You can understand the messages that are being interpreted. But let's say, for example, I've seen people get, say that 8 is change. 8 is the only number that has to do with the material realm. It's the number of money and power. So if you're seeing 888 and you're like, yay, change, and that's what you're focusing your energy on, you're missing a pretty amazing opportunity to focus more on like money and what's going on with there. But you take it a step further when you understand your own cosmic code and you're like, where is 8 within my coding? Again, you have to think of it through that lens.
Now we're going to post that clip and see what the level of consciousness of people are.
Come on. People, you know what surprised me about that is that people were pretty upset about it. But what surprised me the most is how many comments that I saw of people just tearing me down for what I looked like and just me as a human, like not even talking about what I was talking about. And I found that just to be the strangest.
On some petty bullshit, yeah.
It was really weird because I'm like, it's fine if you disagree with what I'm saying. And of course, I always encourage debate and, you can challenge whatever I'm saying. Like if this isn't your cup of tea, cool, take it or leave it. Like I'm not trying to force anything on anyone. But the fact that people were just like, this bitch is so fucking ugly and stuff like that, it just blew my mind that kind of hate would come through me talking about angel numbers, It's like, this wasn't even the internet is a wild place.
You're not the only one. We've posted plenty of things where people just are on some bullshit.
Yeah.
It's really wild. It's bizarre that people do that.
What I don't get is how do people have the time? Like if I saw something online that I didn't like, I'd be like, cool, I don't like this. On to the next thing. Like it doesn't, even things that are like maybe would be really triggering for me based on my history and past, but I'm just like, okay, I don't like this. Unfollow, don't watch. Like it's strange when you think you're not even talking about something controversial and people want to attack you.
Welcome to the online, people just being online, the nature of
How do
humanity
people have
right
the
now.
time though? It's so much energy to do that.
It is, but it's worth it when you're trying to justify in your mind to them. But I think my interpretation of what you're saying.
Yeah.
In my mind, you're saying there's a simulation code.
Yeah.
Right. We're getting back to the 111 thing, right?
Yeah.
There's a simulation code. The code of the video game essentially has a built-in meaning when you understand the code.
Yes.
And what people are trying to do with angel numbers is change the meaning to fit their own.
Yeah, but the message is wrong if you're interpreting it based on what some random person said online that's like angel numbers versus like actually using numerology and your own cosmic code to understand and decipher the messages.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's why we're saying angel numbers. I think it's interesting, though, if we just think about the concept of using, seeing a specific thing in relationship to your past. In kind of like the example, you were talking about how someone might, or in my own case, my dad always liked the number 41. So every time he saw 41, it meant something to him growing up.
Yeah.
And so I think
that's okay too.
right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is like both of those things can simultaneously be true.
Yeah.
You can see 41 and you can be like, oh, or you can even see 11. You might be like, oh, that's a sign for me.
That's my dad. Yeah.
Or I'm on it. But simultaneously, it can still have a deeper meaning as to what the code numerologically. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Well, here's the thing though. I'm all for personal, application to numbers, right? Like people do this all the time. They're like, my grandma passed. If I see this number, that's a sign she's with me. Or if I see an owl, that means this, right? But for me, what I don't like is that there are a lot of websites online that talk about angel numbers and, they're not taking into account numerology and they're just making kind of things up, like it's always like, it's very generic. Like your spirit guides are with you now and this is happening. And it's not, for me, it's not like the right code. It's kind of like if someone was to take astrology and they're like, oh, Nick, you're a Cancer sign. But to me, that's a fire sign. And this means you're that. And it's like, okay, well, let's honor the ancient tool that is kind of, am I making sense?
100%. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're saying the same thing.
And
we're speaking the same language.
Wait, I think you posted on Instagram recently, or maybe it was Robert. It was Robert. So maybe you saw it, Robert Edward Grant, that some scientists actually discovered that could prove we're living in a simulation because things in nature, there was an algorithm to it and it was coded. It was coding. Did you see that?
No, my mind is on a whole different train of thought right now.
Because of what I just said before?
No, because of something else that came up for me when you mentioned Robert.
Okay, go.
A memory that I had.
Yeah.
On that first podcast, this is ironic how it comes full circle.
Oh, because I brought up that you should meet him.
On the first podcast, you said, you should meet Robert Grant. And I said, if you go back and watch that podcast right now, you will find in that episode, I said, I'm going to meet him.
Yeah.
And then guess what?
You did.
A year later,
yeah,
or whatever, he messages me and says, I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then we start talking and we become friends. And then I go podcast with him in person.
Yeah.
And so just let it be known that if you put shit out there,
we manifested it.
People want to say that manifestation isn't fucking real, but sometimes it's just
You know what though?
wild.
I feel like the things I've manifested, like the biggest things I've manifested, have always been like things I wasn't trying to manifest, or it was something I wasn't attached to at all. And I was like, oh yeah, I could do this. Like I remember before my book deal came through, I was writing numerology content for this tarot artist because we put out a deck together, a numerology astrology deck. And I remember as I was writing, I was like, I feel like I could write a book. I feel like I could write a numerology book. And I just said it and didn't care at all, never thought about it again. And then I got that email a couple months later being like, hey, do you want to write a book? And I think it was the fact that I was not attached to writing the book. I was like, whatever. And that always tends to be when I manifest things. And I feel like it was the same with you. You were like, yeah, I'm going to meet Robert one day.
I didn't even think about it.
You weren't really focused on it.
I don't think I thought about it one time in between it happening and not happening.
And then
I wasn't like, I'm going to meet him. I was just like, I literally said it and I forgot about it.
And then guess who slides into the DMs?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got to go to the bathroom. I'm going to explode. You said, I hope people like Lord of the Rings. I can't fucking operate like that anymore. You know,
if you don't like Lord of the Rings, you're not in our crew.
No, it's just like the concept. I think that question stems from like a thought process where you would make a podcast projecting what people will like and won't like.
I see what you're saying.
And you're not actually.
You just gotta be true to yourself.
Well, yeah, like I don't do a podcast thinking to myself, what are people gonna like? Let me talk about that. I want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And that's more important. Like a genuine conversation is more important than like this arbitrary measure of where I need to steer the conversation. Because to me, this isn't an interview. Like I don't do
It's not?
I don't do interviews.
No, I know.
think the difference between an interview is like when people have preset. This
I
is
know
what
the
we're gonna
questions.
do.
Yeah.
I don't fucking have any idea what I'm gonna say.
But that's always the best. Like for me, I like listening to podcasts where I feel like I'm like hanging with friends.
That's what this is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a predetermined thing, and that's what I like too when I listen to podcasts. That's why I don't do it. You know,
Yeah.
where it's all pre-done. It's like fuck that. You know, because I feel like then it's not genuine. Then I can't be genuine with you because then I have to try and appease what the image is in my mind of what I think people will like.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good point.
So if people don't like Lord of the Rings, that's why we do the fucking bookmarks. That's why we do
Yeah,
timestamps
true.
every video.
Well,
Do you know how much effort I put in to do that? By the way, that's something I never talk about, but the timestamps take for.
don't talk to me about editing because I've been editing too, and it's been nightmarish. Nightmarish.
It does help me pick up clips though,
Yeah.
because you can use AI software to do clips now.
Mm-hmm.
But when I watch it myself back, that's how it actually helps me to get better at podcasting because it helps me to understand, am I interested in my own podcast? And if I'm not, then we got a problem.
Yeah.
Because I used to.
Well, you can edit out the parts that you're not interested in.
No, that would just take away the entire premise of what I was saying of a genuine conversation. It's not about interest.
No, I know. I'm just fucking with you.
I know.
God's gonna gad.
I get it, but
Okay, wait. I got a question for you.
okay,
Because
sure.
you brought up asking questions.
Uh-huh.
What was the biggest challenge you had to overcome this year? Since we're getting to the end of the year, it's year 5.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Let me fix this.
How many times are people asking you the deep questions,
Not
Nick?
very often.
So let me guide you.
Okay, so the question is what is the
What was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome this year?
Oh, shit.
myself?
I mean, isn't that everyone's greatest challenge?
Not necessarily. People will be like,
People are always, I read a book on self-sabotage this year, and it made me realize that every single human being, to a certain extent, is self-sabotaging all the time.
Yeah, I think intrinsically, that's correct.
Yeah.
But I think people disguise it as external things.
Yeah.
To actually give it some sustenance here. This is one I have never talked about, but I think that for me, it was my own. It was my own to get over. There's 2 ways to say this: the positive and negative way. The positive way would be like me letting go of this part of me that didn't want to fully step into my own interests because my mind had, and this is actually goes back to what we literally just talked about. My mind had an idea of what it thought I should do.
Oh, yeah.
Versus what I genuinely like to do and what inspires me and what interests me. And so I realized, like, I was really, for a while there, I was enjoying doing skits. Like, it was nice. It was cool. It was a good break from the green screen videos.
Well, you had a 3-5 things.
Right.
Yeah.
Which basically just means
Great
trial.
life experimenter.
Yeah, just try a bunch of shit. So, and then when I went through all of the breakup and then I went to New York and I was in the woods, it was like trying to move an immovable object to get me to do skits. And it was like, why is this happening? And then I was realizing that I was doing things because I thought that this is the way it's the most entertaining, or it was like, this is the thing that I should be doing versus just genuinely.
And you were having fun in the beginning. I remember when you started doing them, you were having a lot of fun, but I think in the end, it just wasn't what was like nourishing you on a soul level.
I like talking.
Yeah.
And I like talking. I like the comedy and I still like that, but there's just a part of me that likes just fucking talking about
just doing
different
this sort of thing.
Yeah, and even just like on my own, even just talking about certain philosophies and and shit like that. And so it's actually like embracing the more Alan Watts side, you could say, because
Yeah.
we've talked about that. And I actually tried to push it away for a long time. And I looked at my own podcast, my own work, and I'm like, how the hell did I make it this far when I was so limiting myself? I was actually like kind of blown away because I feel like I have so much more within me that's now coming out, and it's getting
Yeah.
out there. But there's so much more that I haven't shared, and it just, I feel really grateful for as far as I've made it, knowing and nobody will know this but me, but my own potential of what I could have done. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with the way I did things, but that part of myself is just like coming to terms with that, accepting that I did that and that I wasn't operating optimally for the last 6 months, and then taking initiative to actually do that. That's why, there's 2 podcasts a week now, because I know I can do it. And
Yeah.
I'm going to go up to 3. I'm going to do one. My goal is to do 1 science, 1 spiritual, 1
Talking.
person, like 2 person. So yeah, I think this year has been a lot of my own unwillingness to give it my all. Not even like just try. It's not about trying. It's about full embodiment. And
Yeah.
that, I think for me, that goes in many ways. Like my weight was out of control for a while there, going up and down. It wasn't like out of control like it was. Like I wasn't 315 pounds. I was probably like 225, my heaviest at 6'4", and now I'm down to 190. So just reining everything in. And then
It's that discipline, I feel like, too, that you're like stepping into. But also,
it's a groundedness.
as your friend and confidant, I also feel like for you, there was some of that was because the clarity wasn't there yet.
Exactly.
And something that I've learned this year, and I tell people all the time now, I'm like, if you're not clear, it's because it's not time. And I think that you had to be alone in New York to process a lot of things, to move through a lot of things, to have these breakthroughs and epiphanies. And then that led to these, bigger aha moments in you being able to be like, wow, I need to be embodying more of this. And, here are the places in my life I really need to clean up.
That was the first time in my life I had been truly alone as an adult.
Yeah.
Ever. Like I always had
You
someone.
did it really well, though.
Thanks.
But it's interesting because you were in New York at the same time I was in London.
I was for those that don't know, I was in upstate New York.
Yeah.
I was in the woods. I was up by Canada. I wasn't in I didn't go near the cities.
He was very isolated.
Yeah. And I was basically alone July, September. Then I came here in October, right? In November.
Yeah, you were here like October 7th.
Yeah. And so 3 months
Yeah.
here, but 2 months in New York. And I haven't been alone. I mean, I still am alone as in I
Well,
live
you
alone.
did have Jax.
Without human company, just me and my
Yeah.
dog, me and Jax. Yeah. So it's been an experience, and I realized how full of shit I was, how much shit I was telling myself. And I think there's levels to it, because I think most people would have a hard time admitting that. But for me, it's just a level of just realizing you can still be embodied to a certain amount, still be achieving what you want to achieve to a certain amount, but you just realize that there's more.
Yeah, of
So
course.
it's like percentages. Like I was probably 50% embodied, and that got me to where I was. Then I started to see, what's that other next 20%, next 20?
Yeah.
It's not like a 0 to
But
100.
you're leveling up, right? It's like if we're going to take your analogy of, we're in this human game, it's like you're graduating to that next level, right? So it's like now you have new superpowers where in the previous level you didn't have access to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, there's been a large part of me on a personal note that has been, I've rejected a part of me from the last couple of years, because originally what I loved was, I've said this before, but I got into this because I had like a moment where there was a pulsing in like the middle of my forehead, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And that's a whole story. But what got me into it was I started to study Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, or actually it was You Are the Placebo, that book, Dr. Joe. And then at the same time, I was studying Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, which is Wayne
Good
Dyer's
book.
interpretation of the Tao. So Taoism. And so I got into it, and then I got into like all this other mind candy shit that like took me away. And there's been a part of me that's like, why did you do that? Like almost rejecting myself, because I know that what I'm doing now is what I really wanted to do. Like what took me so long when I was in Hawaii staying at Matt and Ash's house, who's been on the podcast, Yoga Couple. During that time when I did that podcast with them, I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, the same book, but it took me 8 months to get together. And so
your consciousness has changed though.
Right.
Like we'll revisit things that didn't resonate at all. Like I read The Untethered Soul this year and it honestly changed my life in the moment that I read it. When I tried to pick it up in the past, I was like, whatever, I don't care about this. I didn't need it. It's like you didn't need the Bhagavad Gita then. You needed it now to have this epiphany.
Yeah. And so for me, it's just like not denying those parts of myself anymore and being like just loving to myself. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of men struggle with that. Like being okay. Because to go back to, I think at the beginning, what I was talking about was there's this part of me, if I had to say the biggest epiphany I had, and I want to hear yours, biggest epiphany of the year and your biggest struggle of the year.
Oh God.
So start thinking about that.
Oh Lord.
But the biggest epiphany I had, if I'm being completely honest, was that I was never truly okay with the moment, the present moment. I was always like, I need to achieve more. I need to do more. I need to put out this next video, next whatever it might be. And I was never genuinely happy. Not never. Let's not say that.
No, I see.
I think there was moments where I was, and for me, embodiment, and I was pushing myself because in order to do this at the level I do with so many podcasts, with so much content and other things too, there's a level of like discipline, which we talked about. Discipline's good. But there was a part where I never felt like this present moment was okay. It was good enough. And so the epiphany that I had was, how much am I denying this moment? Like right now, what am I experiencing? Am I okay with this moment? Like, is it all right? And then the epiphany is asking myself, like the question of, are you trusting that it's okay that you're experiencing this? Are you in your soul trusting that it's all working out beautifully? You are right where you're supposed to be. Are you trusting that? Or are you saying that you're not where you're supposed to be? And what does that lead to? Despair. It leads to consistent unhappiness. That's insanity to me. And so that if I had an epiphany this year, it was like I would have moments, I don't know, 50% of the time I was happy, but then there was a large percent of the time where I let go of my own embodiment, my own kind of metaphysical embodiment for the sake of doing things. And so for me, it's like bringing that back to what's more important. And to me, mastery is in doing both things, being able to strive and achieve and to do and to take action in the world, but also simultaneously being okay with where you are. And I think if anyone is missing, if humanity is missing something, I think that's one of the big missing pieces is being able to do both. You don't have to just be like, I'm okay with where I'm at and I'll be okay with this the rest of my life. It's not necessarily that. It's not necessarily like giving up desires. It's like there's two sides to it in the modern world. That's what I see in implementing that.
Yeah, be here now. Yeah, that was a huge epiphany I had to learn this year too. Just like being so in the present moment, because that's the only place where you can actually find peace, because the future doesn't exist yet. And the past, you can't change. So there really is no time but now. Right?
Yeah. Yes, it's true. And I think part of that is there's a lot of the spiritual culture, the metaphysical culture is to use, people are using the future self, the future timeline to then feel those feelings and to step into that embodiment and then bring that into the present moment to learn how to feel those feelings again. And I think that's an important practice. Because if you don't even know what it feels like to feel good, if you need to use the permission slip of the future to do so, okay, great. Yeah. But if you're doing that and it's just causing you to feel like this isn't enough right now, I'm not enough right now, that's where you got to realize, okay, well, what's the root of my unhappiness? What's the thing that I'm not addressing? Yeah. So you can use that to bypass your own inner work right now. So that's the question I'm always asking myself is, am I doing that? Even because there is a future version of me that I want to bring in. You know, there's so many things that I want to bring in, even if that's external physically. I don't think that's okay. Or I think that that's completely okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so that's that balance.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. But, okay, so tell me, what's your biggest thing you work through?
Oh my God.
You worked through a lot of things.
Yeah.
What, just one of the things, then it doesn't have to be that
I
good.
think the hardest thing I went through this year was living with grief. I've never had grief in my life before. I've had sadness. And, you know, I've been through a lot, and I've had a lot of like ups and downs like most humans, but I really sat in grief for a lot of the year because, again, my health issues and then going through this breakup and just saying goodbye to so many different parts of myself. And grief is an interesting thing. It's foggy. You know, when you're in grief, it's really hard to see outside of it. And that was, again, I had to come back into my present moment because I was like, it was like I was, like, you know, a ship in the middle of a storm. I was like, I can't see beyond this moment. I just have to be here, and to give myself grace and compassion during those moments, and to just really not judge myself and all the lessons that grief taught me. To be honest, I didn't know that a human could feel that much. Like, I didn't realize the depth of emotional pain that a person could go to. Like, I could intellectualize horrible things happening, but I had never felt that depth of emotional turmoil. And so to go through that when I was typically like pretty happy, bubbly person for most of my life was honestly a little traumatizing. But it was incredibly challenging. I still am kind of going through grief, and it's taught me a lot, and I'm grateful for it. But that was hands down. I mean, I just have so much compassion and empathy for anyone. It's like my heart is like 100 times more open than it ever was, you know, to anyone who's going through anything. I'm like, oh my God, how can I be there for you? Like, I get it. I've been there. And just that really also forced me to have to prioritize myself. Because for most of my life, I was like, how can I help you? How can I serve you? Putting everyone else before me. And then having to be like, I actually don't have anything to give. So I have to sit with myself and give to myself and be my own best friend and my own everything in this moment. And it was the hardest year of my life, for sure. Yeah. It was a lot.
Yeah.
You were there for me.
There.
Yeah. Woo. Damn. All the crazy moments. London, remember you came to Nashville and we got dinner, and then from that moment to London to
When was that? When was that?
when we you came
I remember
when you got your car.
Oh, that was when was that date? Like what time of year?
February or March?
Oh, it was earlier in the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
There was a lot that happened between that and now. Wow.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I don't even say this with ego, and I'm sure anyone who's really dealt with grief or been through a really hard time can relate to this. Like, my own inner strength shocks me. Like, there were moments where the grief was so strong that I was like, I don't even know how I'm gonna like survive. Like, am I just gonna go to sleep and like die tonight? Because it was that intense and like visceral. And to know that like I still got up every morning and I still took care of myself and I still did the best I could every day was like, wow. Like, there is a level of fearlessness that I feel now that I'm like, if I could survive that, oh, whatever. Like, if I have to walk away from this, no big deal. Because if I could survive and walk away from those things that I had to walk away from this year, then I'm good, you know? But yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
So, what advice would you have for someone that's going through grief?
Oh my God. You know, when you're in that
That's okay. I know it's tough. You went through a lot this year. And if you don't have any advice right now, we can do round 4. We can talk about the advice because you're going into your next year, you know? So if you're still in it, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard when you're in that space to feel like it will ever be okay again. But honestly, it was leaning on my friends and just doing one nice thing for myself every day was really a game changer. Just every day I would get up and I'd say, okay, you're going to do one good thing for yourself today. Changing your environment helps a lot. Music.
Yeah, music for sure.
Music helps. Dancing helps. Any sort of expression.
Lil Jon, you were telling me about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. So I sometimes when I got really sad, I would just I would put on the most ridiculous song that you could never cry to. Like Nick and I were doing something and it was really hard for me. He was helping me face a fear. And as I was driving, I was like, oh my God, like the emotions are coming up. And I had some like kind of like not happy music on. So I decided to put on Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, whatever, Get Low, you know, to the windows, to the walls. And it was like, you can't cry to a song where the lyrics are till the sweat drops down my balls. Like it just, you're not going to cry to that. So that's really helpful. Like when you're sad and in that grief, just like, do not listen to sad music. Like if you need to cry it out, okay, fine. Put on one sad song, but don't get stuck in that. But I mean, honestly, it's just like treating yourself right and loving yourself. Like even waking up and like making yourself healthy, good food. And calling a friend when you need them and asking for help. That was like the biggest thing. And you really helped me with that too, because you were like, let me be here for you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's what friends are for. True friends. You know, sometimes those moments will teach you who your friends really are. I've had that happen.
Yeah.
You know, people disappear when it's hard.
Oh, for sure. People want to be there for the high times.
Exactly.
But, you know, it was really hard for me to accept help for a long time because I was always the one helping everyone else. And so learning to receive was a really big one this year. And, you know, you did definitely help me with that. You're just like, listen, I know you're going through it. Just like, I want to be here for you. And you had to say that like a couple times for it to really stick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I think it can become foreign to people who have but haven't had a lot of experience with people that don't want something from them. Because that's what, when you have friends from the past, sometimes it tends to be transactional.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be there for you when you give me something. And so I think that's what we're stepping into.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you don't even realize too, like, I didn't realize that there were friends like that in my life. And then when I didn't have anything to give, you know, because again, like I'm so used to taking care of other people or people coming to me because they want answers on things like, oh, what's going on in my charts and all that. And I have really good boundaries with that. But yeah, I mean, people are really uncomfortable with strong emotions. And not that I was
People are
necessarily showing that, but when someone tries to get close to you and like, how are you? And like, how are you really? And I'm like, yo, I'm going through it. But at the same time, so many people stepped up in my life. Like there are people that I didn't even know a year ago who were like holding my hand in my apartment, like while I cried and being like, I love you. I'm here for you. Like that was the craziest thing too, is just, yeah, some people leave, but then there are people that you would never expect to enter your life, or people that like you considered an acquaintance.
It's like you made room for those people though.
Yeah, that just all of a sudden they're like, you know, man, like there was this one woman that I met in Nashville and she just like relentlessly pursued a friendship with me and was like, I know you're hurting. I'm going to be here for you. I was like, I don't really know you. Like, okay. But she ended up being like one of my biggest like confidants this year. And she's always was checking in on me. Even when I wouldn't message her back, she'd be like, hey, I love you. I'm here for you, you know, and in a really loving and kind way, not like a creepy stalker way, you know? And again, like, it's just, I'm sure you realize too, because you went through a lot this year as well, especially when you were alone, just like the people who were showing up for you versus the people who were like, oh, you're not this image of perfection, this 5-line that I that I thought you were, you know.
And people project just because like people follow you, they think that, oh, now you must be perfect, or you're not a human.
Yeah, like you have it figured out because you're talking about all these spiritual concepts when really, like we're just as fucked up as everybody else. You know, we're all living this human experience. It's really hard. I think the only difference is like
we're just televising ours in a way.
Yeah, and also I think you and I are dedicated to growth. Not everyone is. Not everybody wants to look at their stuff. Not everybody wants to transcend. Not everybody wants to grow as a being. I think there are people who do and people who don't. And so when you are dedicated to that path, I think it's a lot more challenging. Like there were definitely nights, days this year where I wish that I could just be someone who like goes out to the bar and drinks and forgets about things and just woo party. And
same, sometimes that does come up for sure.
And
I haven't had alcohol, but I think I had like 1 or 2 beers.
Beer doesn't count.
You say beer because you're
I always
German.
say that, yeah.
Like I had a beer like twice in the last 6 months, but that's it.
No, but that's what I'm
you
saying.
You don't numb yourself.
That's the thing. It's like this year I radically was like, I feel this pain within me, this emotional pain. I have to deal with it and I have to meet the storm head on. I cannot numb because I know through all the like spiritual work I've done on myself, I know that numbing prolongs it. And I was like, all right, God, like you are really throwing me in the eye of the hurricane and I'm going to just face it. Like I'm not going to numb out. I'm not going to distract myself. I'm going to sit with this and be as present as possible and feel every feeling. And it was so powerful and transformative, but excruciating at the same time. And again, there were so many times I was like, I wish I could just go numb out in a way. But then what? Then I'm going to deal with this for like 3 years. That's going to be in the background. No, I was like, I'm going to meet this and then leave it in my year 9, hopefully.
But I think going on that though, it is the most challenging to do that, but it is also the most rewarding.
Yeah.
And I think
you grow a lot for sure.
But when you're in it, it doesn't feel rewarding.
No.
When night after night, you're just sitting there and these feelings are coming up and you're sitting with them. You're not just doing things to distract yourself over and over like most people do. And so sometimes it can feel like, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? And for me, it's like, there's just moments where, I don't know if you experience this, but let me know. It's just, the emotion's gone. It's just like, there'll be moments where you felt it. You don't know when, you know how long. It's been like, maybe I'll sit with it for a day. And then all of a sudden, I can feel it leave my body.
Yeah.
And then you're just like.
Yes. Well, when grief comes up, it's asking to be honored. So you need to sit with it. And of course, you need to know your own limitations. Like there's a time when you sit and you cry and you lie on the floor of your apartment and you just cry it out for like hours, whatever. Really go there. And then there are moments where you're like, I need to get up, put myself together, go outside, go to nature, go see a friend, right? It's about like having that balance too. But you're right. It's like the emotions will hit you out of nowhere. And I think it's important to, again, you have to honor them. And you don't even know like the grief that you're feeling or the sadness that you're feeling. It might not even be about the moment that you think it is, right? So again, like a lot of my pain came from my health issues and my breakup, and I stopped making music and was in a new city, all of these things that really shook me. And all these things were attached to my identity too. And, you know, when grief was coming up, it was like, is it really about like my health issue right now? Or is it, something from the past that I didn't actually sit with? So that's another thing to think about too. It's like when you actually open the floodgates to like feel something, it might be something from childhood that like you don't even realize you're still working through. And you're like, wow, this is coming up? Like, I didn't even think I cared about this anymore, right? So yeah, I think just honoring those feelings and honoring yourself is just so important, even though it is the most challenging work I think you will ever do. For me personally, like emotional pain was always my biggest fear. Never wanted to sit with it, never wanted to sit in it. And I never really did until now, I mean, of course, when I had moments in the past, like, my grandma died, things like that, I did. But when I went full into the hurricane this year, that was a whole new level.
I feel that, especially as a man, dealing with emotions. I feel like I was definitely avoidant.
Yeah,
and
same. I've always been avoidant. Like, oh, I'm not going to deal with that. Whatever, it's done, it's over, move on.
Mm-hmm.
And probably that you really sat with your shit this year. I'm sure there were things coming up for you that you were like, whoa, I didn't know that impacted me so much, but it did.
Mm-hmm. And you want to know one of the most helpful things about it, my process. So for me, I needed to separate the story from the feeling. And so,
yes, the story we tell ourselves about the thing too. That is so important. I'm glad that you brought that up. Yes.
So when I'm feeling emotions, I'm actually consciously letting the story be noise, letting it be there, but I'm not like attached to this is the truth of why this is coming up. Because if you think about it, if you have an energy, a vibration, it could be multifaceted. It could be like, if it's strings or like timelines, it could be like, there's one part of the timeline where I was bullied as a kid. Then it might come up, oh, well, maybe I got bullied in another way, like 10 years later, or I felt that same feeling of being bullied, even though I maybe wasn't bullied. Yeah. And so it's like, it might come up as one story, but what the truth may be is that it's multiple stories just being asked to be felt. And I think as a man, it can be difficult to feel like it's okay to do that. But I think one of the most important things as a man that you can realize is that if you understand the dynamics of when to feel feelings, because there's a time as a man to warrior up, to do the things that you need to do.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. There's a time to sit on the floor in your apartment and cry, and there's a time to put your big girl pants on and get outside.
Yeah,
and
or
again, same with the man.
The big man pants on. Yeah. Especially, if you're in a relationship and your woman needs you to be grounded, your woman needs you to show up in that moment. Yeah. Maybe that's not the time to feel the emotions. Maybe
that's so important, the timing too.
Right. So maybe you need to start to just realize, hey, if I'm doing things where people are counting on me, or I need to be able to count on myself to show up for myself, maybe this is not the time to feel it, but that doesn't mean I'm never going to feel it. You just understand, if I'm at home in my room and there's no one else around, it's okay. You can sit with yourself.
Yeah.
And so we
got to carve out that time too. And that was something I did this year where I would specifically be like, okay, I'm going to stay home tonight and be completely alone and turn off my phone. And whatever comes up, comes up. Like, you have to carve out that time when emotions might be coming up. A lot of people don't do that. But like you said, like, okay, I'm going to schedule this time, like go to my room and do.
They're back.
Oh, yeah.
You guys can come in if you want.
The Galactic Maya expert is here.
We'll see you on the podcast soon.
Ow!
Tomorrow night. Let's go. How was the food?
I like it. Got ice cream.
Wait, did you like the burger?
Yeah.
Nice.
Wasn't it better than Farmland?
No.
Farmland.
Really? Isn't that what it's called?
Farm burger.
Oh, Farm Burger.
All right, so we'll finish up then. I usually do a last question, but you've already done it.
I didn't even mean
twice.
to.
You didn't know you did it twice. Every other podcast, I've asked you the question already, so we don't need to do it. It's like my last message to humanity question. But you know what? Okay, let's do it real quick. What's your, if you had to give a message to people right now, what would it be? If there's something that's coming up. Whatever. It doesn't have to be super complicated.
Oh man, I don't even know. Sit with your feels. You're going to be okay.
There it is. I feel like that's the theme of the second half. So
go watch Lord of the Rings if you're feeling down. It will brighten your day.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll have you're doing the planners, right?
Yeah.
The planners are fire.
Thank you.
The link to those will be in the description.
Yeah. The Numerology personal year planner. So there's a year cycle for everyone, a year planner for everyone for each year cycle. It helps you align with the year and the themes, and every single month it tells you what you're going to be dealing with. It has exercises in there for you to just like track your cycles and suggestions on what to do within each cycle. So it's really powerful. And actually a lot of people have told me that they like to do them with their friends, or like a lot of people have reached out saying they do them with their husbands or their wives together, which is really cool because when you start to track the cycles of the people around you, I mean, even that's a whole other level of coming into flow and synchronicity. So definitely recommend doing that.
Boom. All right. I'm going to be doing it.
Yeah.
Are you going to be doing it?
I mean, I created the planner for myself. And then when I did it, I was like, should I just make these for everyone? It was a total creative urge. And then I made 9 135 pages each planner for each year cycle, which was super challenging because I'm not a designer or anything, but I just was like a dog with a bone. I was like, the people need this. Like, I couldn't believe it didn't exist before. And I wanted everyone to be able to, come into a cosmic flow with their lives and to manifest what they want. Because again, just knowing your personal year cycles is enough to change your life. So that's why I created these planners.
All right. Link will be in the description. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Round 3.
Bio. I know. God, I can't wait to see where we are in round 4. I feel like we do these each, there's like a year between each one.
There has been.
Where are we going to be a year from now?
We'll find out. Maybe we'll get you back on sooner. Imagine.
I'll probably see you sooner.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll come naturally.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everyone. Good night.
And so if you want to check out her planners and her numerology course, that will be in the description. Thank you very much for being here on the Human Game Podcast, and I hope you got value from it. All the links to everything mentioned in the podcast will be in the description or the show notes. Check that out down below, and we will see you in the next episode of the Human Game Podcast. And until then, peace.